Utilitarianism is a secular ethical theory which aims to try and establish what is right or wrong without reference to God or the divine, instead only using evidence from this empirical world. The following slides will briefly take you through some of the main general ideas and the vocabulary that you should be familiar with. It is important to be aware that utilitarianism comes in many forms. We will be looking at just two of them. However, the main idea of utilitarianism comes from the Latin root of the word utilis, meaning useful. Thus, this is sometimes referred to as the theory of usefulness. Utilitarianism can take a number of different forms in the sense that what it considers to be a good action can be dependent on the type of utilitarianism that is being applied. In the type of utilitarianism we are interested in, the ultimate good or goal is happiness. This kind of utilitarianism is known as hedonistic, since it values human happiness as the highest good. The more happiness that is being created, the better the act. Utilitarianism is a relativist theory. In this way, it is not interested in the strict laws established by God for some higher purpose, but instead is focused on this world and establishing the rightness or wrongness of an action depending upon the circumstances or situation. There are two forms of relativism: individual and cultural relativism. Individual relativism is concerned primarily with assessing each individual situation or circumstance in turn and not applying rules beforehand. Cultural relativism is concerned with establishing rules within each unique culture, but not placing judgment on any culture for their moral decisions. Utilitarianism may apply either. Here, of course, then, the amount of happiness that will be created will depend not on the goodness or badness of the act itself, because how much happiness will be created will depend on the situation or circumstances. For example, whether or not Peter and Raj should have a sexual relationship will depend upon how happy they will be as a result of that action. Relativism would allow either decision to be made, and because it is hedonistic, the action is good if it creates happiness. Utilitarianism is consequentialist. In this way, it is concerned with the outcome or result of an action rather than the act itself. Here, any act may be performed as long as the outcome is deemed good. In this case, of course, the outcome must be one which creates happiness. Peter and Raj will need to make the decision about their relationship based on whether the outcome of their having a sexual relationship is happiness. Utilitarianism is also teleological because it is goal-orientated. It looks at the purpose of the act, the telos that it is aiming to achieve, and judges this rather than the individual act. Here, of course, the goal should be happiness or pleasure, since it is a hedonistic theory. Thus, Peter and Raj should have as their goal the acquisition of happiness. The utility principle, then, is the goal of all moral action. It is the principle that must be applied to each situation in order to decide what is the best course of action in a given situation. For all moral actions, then, that are assessed according to their situation based on the goal of the action and the intended outcome, the good is what will provide the maximum happiness for the largest number of people. Different scholars have expressed the principle of utility in different ways, but fundamentally it comes down to Francis Hutcheson's phrase, the greatest good for the greatest number. Here, of course, good is equal to happiness.